JK Rowling was an unemployed, single mother. She was suffering from depression. She did not even have the money to pay the bills or prepare food for her daughter. But today, JK Rowling is one of the most successful and wealthy women in the world, who was removed from the list of billionaires by donating a lot of money to charity. JK Rowling was chosen as the most influential British woman, who wrote a story worth $25 billion. JK Rowling was born on July 31, 1965 in Gloucestershire, England. Her father was an aircraft engineer and her mother a technician. She has always loved reading different books, and her favorite book is the life story of Jessica Mitford. When the other kids were playing and shopping, she would sit quietly at home reading Mitford books. He had become the story of JK Rowling. She was a person who was always looking for her heart. One of the oldest memories in her mind was her love of writing. When she was 6 years old, she wrote her first story called Rabbits. JK Rowling loved the weird fiction she read with her sister. They both loved the afterlife and magic. Elementary school was very boring and difficult for her. She starts writing at the slightest opportunity. Unfortunately, it was in those years that her mother developed atherosclerosis in several of her heart vessels. There was no cure for the disease, and it was getting weaker day by day. JK Rowling felt miserable but believed that if she could achieve her dream of writing, she could fulfill her other dreams. She wanted to see her mother healthy and well. So she hoped she could fight her illness and get rid of it. The University of Dreams was JK Rowling Oxford. But when she could not be accepted there, she decided to go to Exeter University. After graduation, she continued to write and worked in several places at the same time. Assuming that these things are temporary because she wanted to continue writing. Still, she felt confused. She wrote 2 adult novels at the time that were never published. Her family and friends are worried about her future career and life and try to convince her to write carefree and look for another job. Because there was no money in writing. In 1990, on a train trip from Manchester to London, the idea of a teenager entering a magic school sparked in my mind. But unfortunately, she lost her mother before she finished chapter 4 of the book. JK Rowling's only regret was that she had never been told anything about her work, because she was worried about her reaction. The death of her mother devastated her, and she left the country to escape this mental turmoil. She went to Portugal and became an English teacher there. She was satisfied with her condition, and the situation was getting better day by day. She fell in love there and got married 3 years later. After a while, her daughter was born. She named her Jessica because of Jessica Mitford. Unfortunately, she separated from her father after 4 months. She did not know where to go and what to do. She decided to return to Edinburgh. Her marriage was unsuccessful. She was a single mother. She had no house and her money was gone. To many, and even to herself, she was a loser. JK Rowling was the woman everyone blamed. After a while, she reached a state of numbness, coldness and sadness. She became depressed. When JK Rowling looked at her daughter, she was afraid she could not take care of her and she would die. Gradually, her numbness and lack of motivation increased. She had lost all hope. She felt that a dark creature inside her was eating her soul. She got to the point where she felt she had no reason to be alive anymore and thought of committing suicide. Her existence did not matter to her. Her only chance was that she still had Jessica. Looking into his daughter's eyes, she knew she could not leave her alone and orphan her. She was depressed. She entered a clinic and, while shedding tears, wrote her name on a request for treatment. She began her treatment period and regularly went to psychotherapy sessions. After a few sessions, She realized that not only did she have to provide food and shelter for her daughter, but now it was time for her to write a book. JK Rowling started writing a complete story with an old typewriter. The book went to 12 different printing houses and publications, but each time the answer was rejected. She regained the feeling of being a loser and found it impossible to become a writer again. So she turned to a teacher again so that she could at least buy food for herself and Jessica. Suddenly, like a miracle, Bloomsbury Publishing contacted him and they talked about the book she had given them for publication a year earlier. She was happy that the dream of writing came to life again. The editors encouraged her to find a day job, because children's books usually do not sell well. But that did not happen with JK Rowling. For the first time in her life, she felt she was entering a new world. Shortly afterwards, the Scottish Arts Centre paid her $88,000, and for the first time, they encouraged JK Rowling to keep writing. For once, everything happened the way she wanted. In June 1997, the book written by JK Rowling was published for the 7th time, and thousands of copies of it were sold. Those books were in the children's library, and she was very happy. In the end, The Surprise of the Story of the Witch Boy, JK Rowling's book, won the award. Nestlé Smarties Book Award, and 3 months later the Best Children's Book Award in the UK. After some time, the book was published by Scholastic, the largest publishing house in the UK. When she heard this news, she almost lost consciousness. Her only wish was that her mother was still alive and could hear the news. These events motivated her and she started writing the next books and completing her series of stories. Within 3 years she was able to publish 3 more parts of her book. The Stories of the Witch Boy, Harry Potter and the Magic Stone. 3 more books, several awards, and subsequent books, until the last book, Book 7, Harry Potter and the Death Valley, was published on July 21, 2007. Although the story of the boy who went to witchcraft school came to an end, it was universally acclaimed and translated into 65 different languages, valued at about $15 billion. 8 films were made from the series, making JK Rowling the world's first billionaire writer. But she has not forgotten the ups and downs of her journey to get here. She established a medical institute in Edinburgh under her mother's name, and in addition tried to help people in need. JK Rowling is no longer worried about paying her bills and living expenses. You no longer need to tell everyone that she is pursuing her childhood dreams to become a writer. She is still one of the most lucrative writers in the world. But for her, like Harry Potter, living with her family in happiness and health is the most important goal. Sometimes things do not go as we expect. Sometimes we find ourselves in the most difficult situation. In a dark place we feel lost and confused and we ask ourselves whether these problems will be solved or not. But as we ride the train of life and do not know where it will take us, we must trust ourselves that we can reach our goal at the end of this journey. She could never tell her mother that she was a writer and could never read her stories to her. But she likes to think she's my biggest fan. Her name is Joan Rowling and you know her as JK Rowling. She is the author of the Harry Potter book series.